It was ugly. It was historically ugly. And reality has set in. Reality has set in for this Memphis Grizzlies team after a 51-point loss against the Oklahoma City Thunder in game one. Where do the Grizzlies go from here? Do they still have a chance? Did they ever have a chance? We got to talk about it. We got to break it down. Coming up on Locked On Grizzlies.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. I am your host today, Damichael Cole, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal, right here. Well, not here. I'm in Oklahoma City right now, but I'm going to be writer of the Commercial Appeal in Memphis, Tennessee. But I'm coming to you from Oklahoma City after game one as we get ready for game two of a playoff series between the Grizzlies and the Thunder. It was a tough one. And it was a historically tough one for the Memphis Grizzlies in game one. A 51-point loss, the worst playoff loss in franchise history. Overall, the largest game one deficit in NBA history of any team. 51 points. So the Grizzlies are in the record books. There's that. But not for a good reason at all. Hey, remember, after you tune into the show today, make sure you go check out the free daily Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. Make sure you go check it out over at lockedondaily.com. Get all the latest on the Grizzlies and much more around the NBA. My co-host Joe Molex has been doing a great job manning the Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. So make sure you go check that out as well. Today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Make sure you go take advantage of that now at FanDuel. So make sure you go take advantage of that. Look, the Memphis Grizzlies don't have a lot to take advantage of when it comes to Oklahoma City Thunder. You got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you got Jaylen Williams, you got Lou Dort, you got Chet Holmgren, and you got Isaiah Hartenstein. There is not a defensive weakness in that starting lineup. What you're going to check? You're going to attack Lou Dort? It's probably going to be first team all defense. You're going to attack Jaylen Wells? It's probably going to be second team all defense. Okay, what about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? You can attack him, right? What a lot of people seem to forget as it pertains to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he actually came into the league known more for his defense. I was at the University of Tennessee when he was at Kentucky. I watched him up close. I was at the SEC tournament when he won MVP, all of that. I saw it up close. This dude, and it's kind of why he's an MVP candidate, and just throwing it out there, I voted him on my ballot for MVP because of his two-way ability. Then Chet Holmgren, what he can do, it's pretty much understood. It's going to be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate going forward. If he can play 65 games of the season, he's going to be on that list. Isaiah Hartenstein, great rim protector, versatile defender. Then you go to the bench, you got Alex Caruso, former first-team all-defensive guy. Cason Wallace is basically like a baby Drew Holiday. They have defensive weapons on weapons. This Grizzlies attack offensively is built on finding mismatches, finding weaknesses, and exploiting them. But what if there are no weaknesses? Before the game, something stood out to me. Before the Grizzlies and OKC played game one, and Mark Daigneault, coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder, was asked about the Grizzlies attack. And, he did all the coach speak stuff. He was very complimentary of the guys, right? John Morant, Desmond Bain. He called Jaren Jackson Jr. a bully on the inside. He was very complimentary of Zach Edey, etc. But then he said something that really stood out to me when he was asked about the Grizzlies scheme. And, maybe he didn't mean anything by it, but it stood out to me listening to him. And he basically said that, they get the job done, but their scheme isn't complicated. And when I watch the Grizzlies scheme, especially lately as they've kind of gone more to pick and roll, what you're starting to see is they play out of the pick and roll, and it's pretty much just read and react after that. But what if you play a team like OKC and they can kind of eliminate you from those advantageous opportunities because there just aren't many, right? You bring one of the bigs out to the perimeter, you're going to have the other one still down there to protect the rim. So, yeah, sure. Bring Isaiah Hartenstein away from the basket. You still got one of the best shot blockers in the NBA and Chet Holmgren at the rim. Lou Dort, one of the best point of attack defenders. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a great defensive playmaker. He's going to get deflections. He's going to get steals. He's going to get blocks. Jaylen Williams, sound defender. They just match up well against the Grizzlies from the standpoint of what Memphis likes to do. Get Ja Morant, as we've seen over the course of these last months. Ja has really obliterated smaller defenders. Gets draw switches, gets to the paint, score over the top of smaller defenders. You can't do that against OKC because in order to get to the paint, you're talking about scoring over Isaiah Hartenstein, scoring over Chet Holmgren. They are the number one team in the NBA in paint point prevention. That is what OKC has kind of made, that's just something they've been great at. And the Grizzlies kind of pride themselves on getting over 50 paint points in the game. OKC won the paint scoring battle in game one. The Grizzlies don't lose the paint scoring battle much, but they lost it in game one. OKC had 60 paint points. The Grizzlies had 48. So a lot of noteworthy numbers to look at from this game overall. But we got to talk about the playoffs key players because this is always going to boil down to at the end of the day. And just touched on Ja Morant. We're going to talk about him more in the next segment. But I want to talk about Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. because the Grizzlies need more from them. They need a lot more. And neither of them were good. In fact, they were bad. Jaren Jackson Jr., 2 of 13 from the field. 0 of 4 on three-pointers, 29 minutes. 4 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Desmond Bane, 3 of 12 from the field. 1 of 6 on three-pointers. 9 points, 2 rebounds, 0 assists. What's one thing that I've said I've liked about Desmond Bane all season long? It's that versatility that he brings. He can have an off night scoring, but you can still rely on him to have at least 5 boards and 5 assists. In this game, no. 2 rebounds, no assists. These are you're paying these dudes a lot of money. Desmond Bane, 4 turnovers. Jaren Jackson Jr., 3 turnovers. They had 7 turnovers combined. They made 5 shots combined. They shot 5 of 25 from the field combined. 1 of 10 from three-point range. And you get it. I don't have to keep going down the rabbit hole of numbers. Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. both got to be better. They got to be a lot better. And the reason this is problematic because you need both of them to be better. What's the odds of both of them being better? Look, when the season's over, there's going to be a whole big picture aspect to this thing in terms of what works for the Grizzlies, who works, and how it works. But as of right now, Dez, Jaren, and Ja, that's your core 3. Those are your guys. And if the Grizzlies want to have any chance, not just winning this series, but just making it a respectable series, you need Desmond Bane knocking down three-pointers, being efficient, taking care of the ball because OKC is swarming. Talking to Zach Edey after the game, talking to some of the other players, they were talking about how you got to be strong with the ball because OKC will come out there and rip it out of your hand if you're loose with it. Jaren Jackson Jr., very accountable after the game. He said he'll be better. Well, a lot of guys say that. But Jaren said he's going to watch the whole game over. The whole game when he watches the film. And I asked him, I said, do you do that all the time? And he goes, no, not all the time, but I do watch a lot of film, which he does. But he's going to have to be better. We talked about it coming into this series. From a size standpoint, Isaiah Hartenstein, Chet Holmgren, Jaren is the one guy who can skillfully match what they bring to the table. He can match it. The Grizzlies need him to be much better going forward. And there's one more guy that I want to touch on. Then we're going to move on. That's Scottie Pippen Jr. Scottie Pippen Jr. Has been really good for the Grizzlies as of late, right? No Jaylen Wells, who we'll talk about more later in the show. Vince Williams has kind of been pushed out of the rotation at this point. So they're dependent on Scottie Pippen Jr. as their defensive stopper and their guy who's going to, be that connector on the offensive end. There was no connecting on Sunday. Scottie Pippen Jr. shot 1 of 9 from the field, 0-4 on three-pointers, 3 turnovers. So you're talking about a game in which Ja Morant scored 17 points. Other than that, you got 9 from Desmond Bane, 4 from Jaren, 4 from Zach Edey, 2 from Scottie Pippen Jr. This was an all-time bad performance for the Grizzlies. And the problem is this isn't a situation where you say, oh, one player gets better, they'll be fine. They need so many players to perform better to win against this OKC team. Makes you wonder if it can really happen. I know I don't sound like I have a lot of confidence in that happening, but you know who does? Ja Morant. He still has confidence in the Grizzlies. We're going to talk about what Ja Morant said about the Grizzlies coming up here next on Locked On Grizzlies. But before we get to that, this episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by DoorDash. Look, NBA fans, you know what time it is. Playoff season means big performances and even bigger rewards. That's why DoorDash is bringing the heat with a slam dunk deal for DashPass members during the 2025 NBA playoff. It's called the Swoosh. You score. Anytime a player drops 50 or more points in a playoff game, DashPass members score a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop. Oh, that sounds good. You get it the very next day. Just place the order of $20 or more. Use the code WINGSTOP50 at checkout, and that combo is yours. Crispy, delicious, and totally free. The offer is valid noon to midnight the day after the game. Terms apply. Look, I love me some chicken tenders from Wingstop, so I want to take advantage of it. And if you want to take advantage of it too, here's how you play. So look, sign up for the Dash Pass to unlock this and more exclusive deals all season long. Look, when any player, all they have to do is score 50 points in the playoff game. Somebody's going to do it. Dash Pass members are going to be the ones who get to take advantage because you get a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop the next day with a $20 plus order and a code WINGSTOP50. That's Dash Pass, your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply now at DoorDash. Ja Morant didn't sound too worried after the Grizzlies lost on game 1. And, why should he be? Well, because they lost by 51. But it wasn't just Ja Morant who didn't sound worried. Tomasi Salo, for all things, he said, hey, we'll be better. Jaren Jackson Jr. said he'll be better. Ja Morant, that said he'll be better. But what really stood out to me was Ja Morant said after the game that I like the shots that I got. And it stood out to me because watching the game live, I didn't get that sense. It felt like every shot the Grizzlies got or wanted to get to, they worked hard for. They had to work extra hard to get any good looks. But I went and rewatched some of Ja Morant's shots, and he's right. So somewhere around here, there's an optimist. I know most of you said, Damichael, it's over. We pack our bags in 3-4 games, whatever is left, and, get ready for Cancun. But there's one of you out there, somebody out there saying, man, if we could just steal one in Oklahoma, Ja Morant's going to be the key. Because he is the one player, when I went and rewatched some of the first half, He's the one player who I saw the looks that he got and said, those look like the looks that he typically gets. Desmond Bain, no. That's scary because you're going to need better execution around him, or you're just going to need better individual play because a lot of his shots did not look like the ones he typically gets. Jaren Jackson Jr. has got to work hard for everything. He's going to have to work hard. Scottie Pippen Jr. missed some shots, but talking to him after the game, he said, look, I had no rhythm or no flow. And then he said, I'll be better. But Ja Morant was confident. Ja Morant was confident in the shots that he got, and I want to see how he continues to build on that going forward, because that's going to be a big key when we talk about adjustments. Another adjustment that stood out to me. There's another adjustment that stood out, and that's the role of Marvin Bagley. I don't think many of you knew this, but during that game against the Mavs, Marvin Bagley was sick. This was the game he got bumped into the rotation. This was on this past Friday. So let's go back to that Thursday. Marvin Bagley didn't practice. He was feeling ill. They gave him the practice off, and Isala was kind of worried because Bagley was part of the game plan. But the next day, Bagley comes out there, earns his role, and he battled through being sick in that game against the Mavs to the point where at halftime, some of his teammates thought he was about to throw up. And he nearly did. But as he said nothing would come out. So Marvin Bagley battles through that. Then comes back against OKC and is virtually the one bright spot for the Grizzlies. 8 of 8 shooting from the field. 17 points overall, 5 rebounds. And Isalo said something at the game that really stood out to me. And paraphrasing here, but he said that the Grizzlies pretty much got their Brandon Clark replacement now. Like, not long term. Don't take this the wrong way. I know some of you will. I know somebody's going to try to make that point. But he said that they've struggled. The Grizzlies have struggled to replace Brandon Clark's minutes this season since his injury, which is true. If you've been watching the Grizzlies, it's been kind of a roulette type thing, trying to figure out who's going to get those minutes that Brandon Clark once occupied. But Marvin Bagley has kind of stepped forward and said, me, coach, I got it. And right now he has the confidence. He has the confidence from his coaching staff. And again, 8 of 8 shooting from the field. He's an active big. We saw him catch a couple lobs. He threw one down from Ja Morant. We know Ja Morant likes his rim running bigs. That's another thing that made BC and Ja such a dynamic duo over the past 5 to 6 seasons. So that's another adjustment that's going to really stand out to me. Of course, Ja Morant, if he continues to get to that floater, that push shot, he's going to make more of those. And then as it pertains to Marvin Bagley, he's the guy to watch. He is that piece that, in this case, didn't come into the series expected to have a big role and potentially could because of how he matches up against Oklahoma City. That's definitely something to monitor as we go forward in terms of where the Grizzlies will be in this playoff series. Coming up next on Locked On Grizzlies, we got to talk about Jaylen Wells because he's out right now, but it's award season and he's looking like he's going to represent the Grizzlies in some way, shape, or form. But before we get to that, today's episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by FanDuel. Look, the NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, all you got to do is when you join FanDuel, place your first $5 bet, and you'll get $250 in bonus bet if your bet wins. But for me personally, I love how FanDuel makes the betting so easy. You can bet on your favorite teams, or you can dive into player props, or however you want to do it. Make a same-game parlay. All great opportunities are available for you to win big at FanDuel. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Make sure you go take advantage of that now at FanDuel.com. Jaylen Wells is inactive right now, and you might have saw him on the Grizzlies bench, kind of hanging around his teammates or whatever the case may be. But all is not lost. Jaylen Wells was named on yesterday as a finalist for NBA Rookie of the Year. We got to talk about something positive. We don't talk about nothing positive at this point of the show, then it'll be like it was just almost like a obituary reading. Like it was a bad game. It's one game, and I'm not going to underestimate what that game was. OKC is just much better, but I want to see how the Grizzlies answer. I want to see how the Grizzlies respond. I'm not saying I want to see if they're going to come back and win. It's just you lost by 51 points. That was pretty bad. That was pretty embarrassing. But as my co-host say, we get one I digress for this per episode, so I digress. Moving on to Jaylen Wells for Rookie of the Year. The other two candidates are Stephon Castle, Zachary Ricochet over with the Atlanta Hawks. Two really good players, two players that had kind of different seasons, right? Stephon Castle came on early. He was probably around January, February, battling Jaylen Wells as the favorites for Rookie of the Year. And then Ricochet kind of comes on late in the season. The second half of the season starts to play a bigger role with the Atlanta Hawks and earns his way into the conversation as well. Now, I know this isn't going to, be great news to some people, but I mean, hey, it's how it goes. But I did have a ballot, and I talked about some people that I had on my ballot earlier. I had Zach Edey and Jaylen Wells, first team, all rookie. That's the good. I voted Stephon Castle for Rookie of the Year. And I've been, before people overreact, I've been Jaylen Wells most of the season. But February, March, as Jaylen Wells' three-point shooting started to tail off a little bit, and the Grizzlies' defense started to tail off. It was the same way with the Defensive Player of the Year conversation with Jaren Jackson Jr. So, again, Jaren Jackson Jr. wasn't one of the finalists for Defensive Player of the Year. He was not one of the three finalists. The three finalists for Defensive Player of the Year, I believe, are Draymond Green, Evan Mobley, and Dyson Daniels. So those are the three players who are nominated for Defensive Player of the Year. And Jaren at one point, mid-February, late February, right after the Victor Wembanyama injury, looked like he had the inside track. But I think the Grizzlies skid late in the season. It hurt Jaylen Wells from a Rookie of the Year standpoint. It hurt Jaren Jackson Jr. from a Defensive Player of the Year standpoint. But I think you still get Jaylen Wells and Zach Edey, first team All-Rookie. Jaren Jackson Jr., again, speaking of my ballot, I had him third team All-NBA on my ballot. So we'll see, kind of what that means for him going forward. But, yeah, it's definitely something to take note of. Jaylen Wells for Rookie of the Year. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think Jaylen Wells did enough to win Rookie of the Year over Stephon Castle, over Ricochet over there in Atlanta? I think it's a tough one. I said it, I think, in January. If the voting took place in January, Jaylen Wells was Rookie of the Year for me. If it took place in February, I was going to kind of be at a toss-up. But as the season went on, Jaylen Wells kind of slumped a little bit. Ricochet started to come on strong. And, of course, Stephon Castle with a much higher usage with the way that the Spurs kind of use him, really took advantage of his role as well. But at the end of the day, the Grizzlies are going to get some guys back on our rookie team. G.G. Jackson was on there last season. And in recent years, Desmond Bane, John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. Have all been on there. So, look, it was an ugly loss for the Memphis Grizzlies. It was an unimpressive showing. And quite frankly, you don't want to see anything that bad, anything that embarrassing. Tomasi Salo said it. John Morant, Desmond Bane, Scottie Pippen Jr., Jaren Jackson Jr., they have all said they're going to be better in Game 2. On the next episode of Locked On Grizzlies, me and my co-host Joe Mullinax will be back breaking down that potential Game 2 in terms of previewing that game and many more things to come as well. But the Memphis Grizzlies are ready for playoff basketball, and Locked On Grizzlies has you covered every step of the way. Subscribe to the Locked On Grizzlies podcast newsletter for expert analysis, insider insights, and all the playoff action delivered straight to your inbox for free. Plus, as a subscriber, you'll be entered to win one of 3 amazing prizes. You can either get a $2,500 Best Buy gift card to upgrade your sports cave setup, a $300 Gametime gift card, or a $200 Fanatics gift card. It's easy and free to enter. All you got to do is subscribe to Locked On Grizzlies up until April 30th and to be automatically entered to win. Don't miss a moment of the championship run. Join the Locked On Grizzlies newsletter today and experience the playoffs like never before. Subscribe today and enter to win by clicking the link in the description. Thank you guys for tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies with me on today. Make sure you continue to tune in to Locked On Grizzlies as we continue to break down each and everything that's going on around the Memphis Grizzlies this season. Me and Joe Monarch should be back with you on tomorrow's edition of Locked On Grizzlies. But until then, remember that Locked On Grizzlies is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen, wherever you watch. Locked On Grizzlies is there. Until next time, I'm Damichael Cole, and we'll see you on Locked On Grizzlies.